Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Alberson. Welcome to the pregame and halftime show on USBN Sports. And as always, I'm joined by the head coach of the Anderson Raptors and Evan Dreyer. Evan, it's hard to believe that this is the season's upon us, and also that you're the sixth year at Anderson. I really feel like you've just been here not too long ago, but it's been a pretty good ride so far.
Being here 6 years and with the inner community, Dan, it's been awesome. I think the best thing about it is that we try to keep getting better throughout each season. And that is what our football team has done. Each and every year we feel like we get the playoffs, we're playing our best football. And hopefully we can do that this year and in future years to come.
Yeah, so let's get into a little bit of this year, last year's team. So last year, you guys, started off the year at 2-2. You went on a streak. You won 7 games in a row, head into the playoffs before you lose into LaSalle. Talk a little bit about what you took from that. Could that kind of help your team, with this young, some of the team that you got this year, to kind of show them what happened last year and then for this year too?
I think we have a small senior class that has played a lot of football. Losing to LaSalle last year and beating Winton Woods, the state champ, beating Clint Massey, state champ, and then competing against Princeton, who had 11 wins. We played a lot of good football teams last year, Dan, and we're able to win a lot of different ways. I think we were able to win some close games. Look at Turpin game last year, being able to win that ball game at the end, to be able to run the football, and then win in the rain in the first round of the playoffs in LaSalle. We didn't play very well. And I think these seniors know how hard it is to win close games and what it takes. We're up at Princeton last year. We're up 13 points and we lost. So I think going into game one this year, they're excited to see how good we really are.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. You're opening the season again, second straight year against a good Princeton team. Does it help you that you've played them last year and that you're familiar with Coach Parker because you did play him against at Winton Woods?
Coach Parker has done a great job building the program at Winton Woods. And I think he's been a defensive coordinator and head coach at Winton Woods for a very long time. And I think he has had our number, Dan. He's been able to have great defenses. We lost to him in the regional finals when he had Mayan Williams and Chris Oates. And his ability to get kids to play really, really hard, disciplined football, and play really, really fast has been a kind of key to his success. So we got to make sure Friday night we get him a little uncomfortable and make this a close ball game.
Talk about playing in the Crosstown Showdown again. It's always a special time. You're playing again. This time you're at home. Playing in the Showdown, does it help playing at home versus away? Does it make a difference?
I think playing the Showdown, which is the best high school event in the country, is spectacular. And I think Anderson, to be involved with it since Coach Siriano, people talk about the Anderson versus Moeller game, how many years ago and how many times they played in the Paul Brown Stadium to play Harrison. Like, those are events, Dan, that our kids need to experience. And I talk about having an experience with our football team each and every year. And we went to Ironton last week for a scrimmage. Now we played game 1, Princeton, and it's exciting. And I think that's what kids want to have. And we're going to have a great experience Friday night at home versus Princeton. First day of school for some. So it's a spectacular start to the school year.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit. You lost a lot of productivity with Joey Faulkner, Devin Upchurch, but you got Santos Alvarez and you also got Miles Haven. You got some other guys that are coming back. Who else can we see that will help you on that offensive side of the football?
I think you're going to have some breakout players going from Brody Burgett, running back. And I did say running back, so you and the rest of the crew can relax. But Brody's going to have a great year catching the football out of the backfield and running the ball for us. I think our goal is to be able to use him like Kings used Ty Skilsky in the past. His ability to catch the football out of the backfield and run the football between the tackles is going to be key. Then we got Mikey Smith as well to complement Miles Havens in the slot. And then you got Trace Jalek on the outside complementing Santos Alvarez. So I feel really, really good about that. And then we have Josh Plank as our utility guy that's going to be backing all these guys up. So our depth at receiver is really, really good. And, it's all going to be led by our point guard quarterback, Griffin Scouth.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I was just going to get ready to him next. Does it help, having that guy that you had last year to come back as your quarterback, had a great year. And as we talked about, your team got better. Griffin got better. just improved so much over the year. Does it help that he comes back for you for second year as a quarterback?
I think, Dan, some people talk about stats of like Jay's first year to second year in the offense, Jackson Coons Jr. senior year, and Griffin's Jr. to be senior year. Like how different it is to have that first year underneath the belt and come back and ready for their senior year. I think Griffin's done a great job this summer of preparing himself, and it's exciting because it's a second year under with Coach Cook and myself. And this is one thing that I will tell you: he's got one of the best arms in all the state of Ohio, and I'm not going to hide from that. And I think that's a tall thing to say about a kid that has the ability to beat 2 state champs, and is going to play really, really well this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree with you anymore on that one. But one of the things I think, would you agree or disagree with this, that the O line might be like the biggest question mark going into the season? I know you got a couple guys that came back, but I mean, I'm just talking, just knowing what we had. Do you think that might be maybe something of a little, not concern? I wouldn't say that's a big word, but just would that be maybe the question mark?
I think, Dan, me and you both and the whole world knows that it starts up front with the O line, and it would be a major concern if I didn't have Coach Standard and a hardworking group of boys that came back. And I think it's led by a senior Caleb McOwen, and then we have a bunch of juniors and sophomores fighting it out. And I think it's exciting for us to have some young and old O linemen fighting it out. But Dan, it's going to be, hey, how much can they step up on a Friday night versus Princeton, and how they react to how fast it has been? Because if you look at our scrimmages, Taft had a Division I defensive end. Dublin Kaufman had a Division I defensive end. Covcath brought pressure, and then you go up against Ironton, who is at Division I, guys across the board. So our O-lines had to get figured out really, really quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that part is we got to win the line of scrimmage, Dan, on a rainy night in November to win a playoff game. And I think our O-line's got to get better throughout the season.
Absolutely. So let's flip it on the defensive side of the football. You got Coach Vale coming back again. I thought he did a great job. But you also have a lot of guys come back that had some great moments last year. Will Carwish, Isaiah Sadler had some good moments. Joey Emmerich, to name a few. Is there any other returners or anybody else on the defensive side of the football you'd like to bring up?
I think, Dan, our defensive backfield from Max Hansen, Brandon Pitts, Joey Emmerich, those safeties are going to be key as we get really, really started in the play, because in our defense, they're going to have to come downhill and play a lot of football and tackle well in space. And I think we have a veteran group of linebackers with Sam Pobance and Will Carwich. Like this is the first year where I don't have another tool at linebacker in the last 6 years. Like I think that's one of those things that people forget of, like the Jimmy and Casey O'Toole family, but Will is the cousin of O'Toole, and hopefully he takes pride in that, and he's going to do a great job. He takes really big pride in our school. His dad went here. He's a great student athlete. So we're excited to see where he goes. And then Chandler Starks and David Norgren also helped the linebacking core, which is going to be great depth. 4 players that can really start on a lot of football teams. They're going to play 3 spots so we can rotate them, stay healthy, and play fast.
Yeah, let's just talk about that real quick. You had a couple, like we said, transfer that came to Chandler Starks and Trace Jellick. Like you said, big team, and that adds more depth to your team and a solid. So you got to be pretty happy getting those guys come into the program.
I think it's one of those things where you talk about really good football teams, really great schools, Dan, and who wouldn't want to come play for Anderson High School? Who wouldn't want to be a part of it? And I think, Chandler played with Nagel all the way up through. Trace played with all those guys up through youth football, and it's something special. And I think that says something for our community, our parents, that they want to be involved with Anderson High School. So we're excited that they are multi-sport athletes, that they're going to play football and basketball, and I can't wait to see what they do and how they produce this fall.
All right, so real quick, let's get into Princeton. Let's keys to the game, and then also some things that we could look out for. I mean, is it pretty much going to be the same thing that we've seen the last two, last year that we saw with Princeton, or do they got a couple new wrinkles?
I think their offensive line at their left tackle, Dan, is probably one of the most impressive offensive linemen since you've seen the Andrew Norwell, Greg Mann's days. I think he's really, really impressive going to Pittsburgh. Their ability to run the football behind him is really, really special. So we got to be able to stop the run and get them in a 3rd and long. Their ability to get explosive plays last year, Dan. If you don't remember,
Oh, I do.
It was an old hook and ladder. It was the vertical 2 touchdowns off that. And then we fumbled the football 5 times last year. So it's going to come down to that. Also, Dan, I would put in the stat of how many times do we go 3 and out? If it's less than 2 times in this game, we're going to win. If it's more than that, we're going to have the ability. We have to hold on to the football and create the first down and play with tempo from there.
Coach, I'm excited. Hopefully tonight we come out with a victory, and John will be down there interviewing you with the first victory of the year. So again, I look forward to doing this because this interview that we do tonight will be shown obviously live when we do our show at the remote location at the lounge. So we really appreciate you taking the time each week. I know you're very, very busy. So really looking forward to this year. And again, thanks for doing this with us each week.
Thank you. And I appreciate the remodel of the victory bell. I think it's one of the coolest traditions that went away for a little while. Now it's back post-COVID, and hopefully we get to ring that bell on Friday night. I think, Dan, I appreciate you and Alumni Association for that. That's going to be a great tradition to bring back.
You're very welcome. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll keep more things rolling. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll have Coach Vince Soriano right after this. So for Evan Dreyer and Dan Albers, you've been listening to the pregame and halftime show. We'll have Coach Soriano right after this. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome back to the pregame and halftime show. And as always, each year, I'll be joined again by the former head coach of the Anderson Redskins, Vince Soriano. Vince, it's really cool, and I really appreciate that you're doing this again. We're doing it only on a Zoom tonight, but you'll be joining us again at the lounge like we've done. We're going to do that starting next week, but we just had to do this one since it was the opener. So we really appreciate you doing this for us year in and year out.
Oh, I love it. Anytime I can talk about Anderson football and be around the people and the kids and the people associated with Anderson football, I love doing it. That's where my heart is.
Yeah, well, we know that. We appreciate it, and it's great to so anybody out there watching us come up on Tuesday. Coach Soriano will be up there. We have a pretty good, entertaining hour there to talk about Anderson football. So let's get a little bit into the crosstown showdown, and then we'll get into what Anderson and their scrimmages and also Princeton. But the crosstown showdown is a pretty neat thing. We're talking about, we've talked to the years past. They're open up with Princeton. Princeton's a team they played last year. You think that it helps that they're opening up with the same opponent they had last year? Do you think that helps out a little bit, and that Coach Dreyer knows Coach Parker a little bit from what he's done at Winton Woods?
Yeah, definitely, because now you've already seen their system. You've played against their system. Now they will refine it to meet their personnel, so it won't be exactly like it was last year, but there will be a lot of similarities, and the structure of their offense and their defense. So that is very, very helpful to you. But now you have to be specific and look at this year's team and what they're doing with the personnel that they have. But, you're familiar now with the type of athletes that they have, what their philosophy is, and how they're going to utilize those athletes. So, yeah, it is beneficial to you.
And beneficial that they're playing at home, too.
It's always much better to be playing at home, believe me.
So let's obviously Anderson had a great year last year, made another run in the playoffs, unfortunately losing to LaSalle. They do have a lot of guys, they're missing some guys, but have some guys back. Talk a little bit about what you've seen so far in their scrimmages that they've had. And we'll get into, I know the most recent one, which was they had Ironton, but talk a little bit about what you've seen so far in their practices and their scrimmages.
Okay, I've been able to watch pretty much every practice because they have me on their Huddle account. So I get every video of the practices, and I usually watch it the next day. And I went down and I was able to watch the scrimmage, the very first one that they had via the Huddle,
right,
and watch that, and then the Ironton one. But what I see right now, just in the early part of the year, I think their strength, and this isn't to take anything away from the other kids, but their strength right now is their skill set at receivers. Those guys run really good routes. They're very precise. And along with the quarterback, Griffin Scaff, returning from last year, their timing is very, very good. And I think a huge strength right now in the quarterback position is Griffin's ability to make decisions quickly. the ball is out and it's very accurate.
Good.
And I think that is extremely helpful and something that Princeton is going to be very concerned about. And I think that's a huge strength. Now, in saying that, Coach Dreyer and that staff has really put together a good system that really plays to our players' strengths. They're really good with the quick screens. What people you see in the games, where they throw it out to the wide receiver, that's called a now screen. Some people call it a smoke screen, where the quarterback raises up and throw, and they do a great job blocking on the perimeter. And the tunnel screen, where they bring that outside receiver in. He catches the ball and runs up the middle of the field, and they try to form a tunnel for him. So that's where it gets its name. And the third part of their quick screen game is the bubble screen, where you see those inside receivers running little flare routes behind the line of scrimmage, and they're throwing it to them. They do those three things probably better than anyone in the city of Cincinnati. And all those games, that I do for Spectrum and everything, I really don't see anybody doing that as good as they do. And that's their bread and butter. And they put a lot of emphasis on it. And they did a really good job at Ironton with the now screen and the tunnel. And I look for them to incorporate the bubble screens in this game more. And I think they will incorporate the running back, where you flare the running back and throw him the ball. That's called a running back bubble. I think they will do that. The run game is a little bit different, Dan, than it was last year, in that they are probably 80% of their run game. They're pulling guards and or tackles. And there's a lot of angle blocking, what you call gap schemes, where guys are blocking down to their inside gap and you're pulling people. And then they run pin and pull, which is people blocking down and then one puller from one side of the line and another puller from the other side of the line. They call that pin and pull, and they're running what you call a buck sweep out of that. And they're doing a very good job with that. Then the faking of those runs, and the quarterback runs off of them. And they're doing some things you call dual run reads, where the quarterback can hand the ball off or pull the ball, and there's two runs in one play. And the quarterback decides which one they're going to do. So they have really expanded upon the running game. And I know people who watch the scrimmages didn't see all that, because they kind of withhold some of that till they get into the games and they practice it extensively. And then another thing that they're starting to develop, because they're H-backs, which is a tight end that's off the line of scrimmage. An H-back is a blend between a fullback and a tight end. And they're now running a play that's the old isolation play. In the old days, when the fullback used to lead on the linebacker, now they're doing it with the H-back, who's up on the line of scrimmage, and he just pulls through and leads up on the linebacker. It's the modern day isolation play that we used in the old days.
Right.
And they're now starting to develop that, and they're doing a really nice job with it. And I think that's going to be one of their big plays as the season goes on. Now, they still run the zone, but just watching them, I think they're a better gap scheme and pin and pull team than they are a zone team. Now, they could prove me wrong, but they just seem to be cut out. And Coach Dreyer and I had a conversation about that today. So those are some of the things that I see. They have another thing that they do with their quick game. It's really good, is they do what you call a 3-by-1 formation, where they put three receivers to one side and then just a single receiver to the other side. And those three receivers either run hitches or slants, depending on the coverage. And Griffin does such a good job of catching the ball and getting it out quickly. They can't get to him with the rush with that pass concept. So between that and the quick screens, he's able to get the ball out, and they're not real high percentage or low percentage passes. Those are high percentage passes, and they are really making a lot of yardage and moving the football. And I think those are the things that they do well, very well on offense. Now, would you like for me to talk about defense?
Yeah, just real quick, I got to ask a question about Griffin. Did Griffin run the ball a little bit in these scrimmages, or did they kind of
Yes, a little, but every coach wants to save his quarterback.
Right. Oh, yeah, I get it.
You always don't want him to take too many hits.
Right.
And I would rather sure Coach Dreyer is the same way. Practice all those quarterback runs during practice, and
Right.
then when you get to the games, then you'll use them when you need them. So yes, he does, and they have those. They have those in the package. I mean, Griffin's a big kid, so
Yeah,
when he runs the ball, that's a big kid to tackle.
Yeah,
So yeah,
he'll definitely make a difference. And then so when I was talking to Coach Dreyer, another flip side of it is they've got a lot of guys that gave him some good younger guys that gave him some good quality minutes and stuff. So talk a little bit about their defense. I think Coach Vale did a really nice job last year. Talk a little bit about what they do defensively and what to expect out of that.
their defense got, as we talked about last year, got better each week, and by the end of the year, they were really a good defense. And you remember in the Princeton game last year, they struggled and gave up a lot of yardage. And, early in the year, your defense, it takes some time for your defense because people don't hit anymore in practice.
Right.
When you played and I coached and people tackled in practice.
Right.
But coaches got smart and said, why should I take those chances of injuries? We'll just butt them up or tag them. Well, when you do that, and that's where I'm going to with this defense, I thought in the Ironton scrimmage, they improved in all areas from the first scrimmage, and particularly in their tackling and defending of the deep ball. Now, and I talked to Coach Vale today. I went down and watched practice, and I said, your players are going to get better each week, and the more they get the tackle, the better they're going to be. So, they were a little ragged in that first scrimmage. It was the first time they ever lined up and tackled, and then they got better in the Ironton scrimmage, and I'm sure they will be better in the Princeton game, so I think they're doing that. Also, they're becoming more physical. I thought they got a good pass rush on Ironton's quarterback, and I thought they were more physical up front. And one of the things that we talked about, they'll probably have to work on a little bit this week is the gap responsibilities of the linebacker and the down man. Like the defensive end and the outside linebacker can never get in the same gap.
Right.
The defensive end has the inside gap. The outside linebacker has to have the outside gap. So, and sometimes in the Ironton scrimmage, they both went to the same gap, and that leaves a crease for the defense. Now, not that often, but that is something that they'll work on this week to get that straightened out. And those were the things that I saw. When you play a lot of 7-on-7 and so forth, you're very concerned with the deep pass. And a lot of times you'll give them some room in the flat. Well, once the season starts, teams will start attacking the flat if they see that on first down, so they can get a 2nd and 6 and 2nd and 5. So I'm sure we'll see some adjustments in Anderson now protecting the flat a little more, particularly on first down. So those are some things that I've seen in the early part of the year.
That's good, and I'm sure that the guys will be ready. And now on the flip side of it, they're taking on a Princeton team that they saw last year. I know that you've probably seen a scrimmage at least from Princeton. I believe, was it Withrow was the one that they?
Withrow.
So talk a little bit about Princeton and what you've seen in them so far in their scrimmage.
Okay. And then a little caveat to this is I trained, how I train the quarterbacks in the off season. Well, one of the quarterbacks I trained was a quarterback from Princeton this summer.
Okay.
And right now he is not the starter, but I have been over there numerous times because I used their field to train him. So I've seen them, going through some of their drills. I would train him after their summer workouts were over. So sometimes I would get over there 15, 20 minutes early and I would just watch them.
Right.
Their strength is they have a really good set of receivers, very athletic, good speed. They've got good size on the offensive line, but they're offensively, they're what you call a spread team, very much like Anderson. They like to use 4 wide receivers and a running back. That's their base look. And sometimes they'll go 2 by 2 by 2. By that, I mean 2 receivers on each side, and then they'll go 3 by 1. They like to go 2 by 2, which is a balance set more often than the 3 by 1. What is a little bit different that they used a lot last year is in the scrimmage, they only used the H-back one time, which you call an 11 personnel set. They only used that one time. Now, I don't know if they're saving it and they're going to break that out against Anderson, or they're just don't feel that they want to use that personnel group as much. But they used that a lot against Anderson, and they were using that H-back to block when the quarterback pulled the ball and would take off. He was the extra blocker. But they only had that set one time, and they ran a counter with it. They did not run the quarterback as much as last year at all. I mean, I think their quarterback ran the ball 2 times. Now, again, you know, coaches will withhold things in scrimmages so that the opposing team doesn't practice for it. So I'm not sure, but that there was not that quarterback run game that we saw in last year's game. The base runs that they're running is they like to run the zone read concept with one of the receivers running a bubble. If it's all jammed up, the quarterback will pull it and throw the bubble. They like to run the old counter, and then they'll run orbit motion and run a jet sweep, and then have the quarterback keep off of it. So those are some of the things that if you're watching the game, you will see. The passing game, they emphasize the quick game, the curl game where the outside receivers run curls, and then they really like verticals. And when they get in trouble or behind the chains, they like to throw the 4 verticals. And when they got to get the quarterback out of the pocket, they'll run a sprint out and then a flood concept where they have a short receiver, an intermediate receiver, deep receiver. And like I said, it's a new quarterback. It is not the same quarterback that they had last year. That quarterback transferred to another school.
Yeah, he went to Hughes.
Yeah, he transferred to Hughes. Yes. So that's their offense, and then I've got a little bit on their defense.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me their defense.
Okay, their defense is they're using a 4-man front. But what's different is when you talk about a 4-man front, you think of 4 people with their hands down, what they call hands down in the dirt, which there isn't any dirt anymore, it's turf. But 4 hands down, but they have 3 down and they have 1 stand up. So 1 defense is down, then they have the nose tackle and the tackle, and then they have a stand up guy, which means to tell me that they can slide into a 3-man front. They can just slide that one direction, and now all of a sudden they're in a 3-man front, and that guy's a stand-up outside linebacker, and they drop the other outside linebacker off. They like to play with what you call a 4-2 box. They have those 4 down guys and 2 linebackers with there's 3 linebackers with one of the linebackers outside the box, playing to the wide side of the field, covering your slot. And then they like to play with a lot of 2 high safeties and press corners. And I just feel that that's the way they're going to play Anderson. They're going to press those outside receivers as much as they can to counteract that now screen where Anderson raises up and Griffin throws the ball out to the wide receiver.
Right.
And so now you're going to have to go more to the bubbles. When they do that, you go more to the bubble game and throw to the slot. So that's kind of, and then if Anderson goes, what you call 3-by-1, with 3 receivers to one side and 1 just a single receiver into the boundary, they like to go with 1 high safety and play man-to-man with a free safety a lot. Okay, so when that happens, look for Anderson maybe to start crossing their inside receivers, because that's hard to defend in man-to-man. The other thing is I saw they have great downhill pursuit from their linebackers and their safeties. Like soon as they see run, the safeties are flying down, the linebackers are playing north and south. Now, what that does do for you is that opens up the RPO game, because now you lock in on key one of those defenders that's really a fast run support, and you run a little pass route right behind him. And if he fills on that run really fast, then you pull the ball and throw it to the receiver. You can do it at the linebacker level, or you can do it at the safety level. But that's the way you take advantage of that. And the other thing is they like to keep 2 linebackers in the box. So like into the boundary, they don't like to pull that linebacker out and go cover that slot into the boundary. So there's going to be times in the game where that inside receiver into the boundary is going to be uncovered. So we'll see how Anderson takes advantage of that.
You know, and Anderson had some luck last year with the receivers last year. I think Joey Faulkner had himself a big game. I think the big turning point last year was Anderson had 5 turnovers, I believe, 5 or 6 turnovers last year. And Vince, is their speed and athleticism pretty much the same as it was? I mean, as it was last year, they're pretty quick and.
Yes. Now I will say this: Withrow played them toe to toe.
Really?
I thought Withrow very well coached, and that game was probably dead even. and
Wow.
it was a very good scrimmage. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So, what I mean, I think obviously, I think Coach Dreyer was saying obviously turnovers are a big part of the game, but he also felt that if he has more than 2 3 and outs, that's going to be a problem for them. He feels like they need to have not as many 3 and outs. I mean, what do you think that's the key is to move the ball offensively and not not give up the big plays on defense because that killed him again last year.
Right. And I think tempo is important on offense and staying ahead of the chains.
Yeah.
You know, if they can protect Griffin and they can get the ball out quickly and not let, because they are good in their pass rush and they will bring linebackers. So, but again, Anderson having such a good quick screen game, that deters that sometimes.
Right.
So Anderson staying ahead of the chain, and then defensively, not giving up the big play. Like you said,
Right.
they get in trouble and they want to throw that ball up and see if their speed can get behind the secondary. And that's why I said from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, Anderson has done a better job of defending the deep ball, which is natural as those kids get some experience.
Right.
You know, it's a little bit different playing defense in today's world as it is in offense.
Yep.
You know, the fact that you can't tackle and things are harder for the defense.
Right.
You know,
So,
and particularly in today's world where there's so much throwing.
right. So, Vince, we really appreciate you taking the time. I can't wait for next week when we're at the lounge, when we're live, because I know everybody loves. I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie about it. Every time that you talk at these things with the crowd there, you get them excited. I get excited. I'm ready to go out on the field. So, no offense on the Zoom. I love it when we're in person because I'm ready to run through a wall. So I can't wait for next week when we're live at the lounge and get everybody there. And I think the excitement's back and everybody really enjoyed being at the lounge last year. And I think we're going to have a big crowd.
Me too.
So I really appreciate you joining us, Vince. And we'll catch you next
One
week.
other thing. There is one other thing I want to add. I get to see Friday night's game.
Oh, cool. Good.
Because Spectrum is doing is for the very first game, they are televising a Cincinnati team versus a Columbus team.
Oh, wow.
So they are televising the Mason versus Gahanna Lincoln game in Columbus.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to televise that game in the Columbus area and Southwest Ohio. Well, they didn't need both. They didn't need the crew from Cincinnati, which is Tim Bray and I, to go to Columbus. They're just going to use the Columbus crew because they don't have to travel.
Makes sense.
So they'll just go to Gahanna Lincoln. So and Tim Bray and I have this Friday night off. So I'm going to be able to come to the game and stand in the back of the end zone and watch the game. So
that's great. No,
I'm there.
Everybody's going to love seeing you. I know they always do. And it's going to be a great night. And I can't wait to get back into it. And Vince, it's hard to believe I've been doing this for 31 years now is what we've been doing this for. And it's crazy that each year I get as excited as it was when my first couple years with you.
Yeah, that's the way it is with coaching. Every year you get excited.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We're going to have the game time here starting shortly. So for Vince Soriano and Dan Albers, you've been watching the pregame and halftime show. We'll be back with live action right after this.